Will this giant red flag of a green-haired waifu steal Megane's heart? Or will Megane put the reins on Ubel? Or is Ubel seducing Megane to copy his magic to eventually cut him off? Obviously, there's going to be spoilers in this video, and check out my Foundation Festival arc video featuring 3 things I want to see happen, and to get a broader outlook on the plot, the themes, and how it all connects to the characters. Beyond knowing that this green-haired heroine is a complete maniac, well actually, Ubel is quite grounded. Her power of empathy would seem like an oxymoron for her character, as she treats death like people just die anyways. She seeks chaos in the face of high leverage do or die situations that skirts through somehow alive through all types of inexplicable plot armor. Ubel isn't necessarily a bad guy, yet her power to copy other people's magical ability is like a nested superpower that forces her to build deep insight into one's nature, in which at the same time makes her realize whatever darker sensibilities she may have an inclination towards gets rerouted in her empathy. Empathy doesn't necessarily stop you from doing evil acts, but it definitely makes it harder when you can feel and understand the pain of another human being. In reality, there's always a trade-off. The selfish nature you need to seek and steal other people's magical power actually makes her more human. It's this alluring, conflicting nature of Ubel, like falling in love with a girl that's almost nothing but red flags. But you can still see how it can work. That is Ubel. After empathizing and stealing Weerbul's Sorganelle biting spell, it's time to prey on another man's clone of loneliness. Then there's poor Megane. She has her eyes, 4 eyes, set on our stud clone doppelganger Lan, whose magical ability would be of the utmost use for someone like Ubel, as we come to find out a little bit more about her backstory. We can all see why she might have ulterior motives, and Lan can see it too. Ubel clearly wants his powers, but where it gets messy is that she's trying to seduce our boy, possibly from a legitimate place in the heart. Is it partially in search of true love, or is it to use him by getting to empathize with him? Or is it both? She has to fall in love with him in order to get this spell. This is the core dynamic that is the most fascinating between Ubel and Lan's relationship. Outside of the typical shonen and shoujo romance between a Stark and Frieren, Ubel and Lan brings a more compelling, more adult, secondary romantic dynamic filled with all kinds of speculation that can make sense in the end. After being introduced with the Shadow Warriors, the official start of the Foundation Festival arc actually occurs in chapter 126 with Ubel recruiting Megane. This arc is all about the rogue Shadow Warriors that was disbanded by the Imperial Empire 16 years prior, and the rogue acting commander Lo or Reve, or however the Germans say it, he wants to yeet our feet goddess and wipe magic from existence. Check out my prior video for a deeper dive into the plot. So the arc starts off with Ubel recruiting Megane, and their relationship picks off where it last started. Ubel immediately trying to get into Megane's feelings in her pants, but our boy is way too keen on what a seemingly crazy person like Ubel would want with him. However, she is persistent and Megane almost has no choice but to let Ubel conversate with him. Run, Megane! What's interesting about Ubel is how fast she was able to copy Sorganelle from Weerbul after he merely explained his backstory when it came to having to yeet women and children during times of war. So she is either taking her time with Megane, or he hasn't actually opened up enough, which is our assumption right now. One of the most interesting perspectives I have when it comes to Ubel, and this is a part of the scenario where Ubel truly does fall in love with Lan, it's the fact that she potentially already empathized with him and can use his ability, but doesn't actually show it because she genuinely has an interest in him. That is my most optimistic scenario for a more wholesome outlook for her character. It kind of feels a little too far-fetched, but it's believable. When Ubel comes to grab Megane for the bodyguarding Serie mission to protect her from getting assassinated, she has already built a cordial relationship with him. But any man knows that this girl is red flags with green hair. That honestly fits her character. Like that one time Ubel forces her away to have dinner with him, he allows himself once more for Ubel to get one step closer to his heart and his true feelings, as his grandmother already passed away with the weight lifted off his shoulders. And right when he was ditching Ubel in his village for good, he visited his grandmother's grave one last time. What? Yep, Ubel's there. This is where he explains that you, ma'am, are still red flags, but I will tell you about my family dynamic anyways. This is where we are getting at the heart of why we love this Ubel and Lan dynamic and why so many people want to ship this couple. Ubel wants Megane for his powers and potentially his balls. Lan, in turn, has a deep connection to the imperial capital as it relates to how his parents may have passed away, in which we find ourselves understanding that this connection might be linked to the Special Magic Forces captain, Captain Frase, where we see in chapter 128, there is a little panel that shows an interaction between maybe his grandmother and Captain Frase, and we know that Lan's parents are dead. This may lead to an important flashback as to both Lan and Captain Frase's backstory, if they ever come face to face. And the story has hinted at Captain Frase's sensibilities being very similar to Ubel's. At this point, we get the connection between how Ubel will empathize with Lan through tragedy of their past. It is clearly a sensitive topic for him that Serie even pries at that Lan immediately shuts down. One moment leads to another, and all of a sudden, they are married! Well, role-playing wise, I think everyone enjoys it every time Ubel keeps messing with Megane. From wanting Megane to flirt with her more, to holding hands, to complimenting our boy's handsome, boyish looks. Although Lan keeps things logical and professional on their mission. Through the lens of the average manga reader, her red flag spells with a dose of armpit have definitely been stealing people's hearts. And I think this continues the process of Lan opening up more to her. It's not like he has a choice right now. Lan and Ubel are sent on a mission to retrieve the undercover first class mages, Linear's super secret message about the Shadow Assassin's attempt to yeet Serie at this festival ball. This is where we end up having to fight these special magic forces, Inoi and Kanone. These guys are the Empire's elite forces, so the assumption is that they are at least as strong as them, if not more stronger than all of the first class mages. As Ubel and Lan get caught and cuffed up, just like how Ubel likes it. Actually, she's probably more of a sadist. From romantic role-playing to fighting together as partners, almost dying, to giving up to save Ubel's life, it just becomes more and more evidence as to how this Ubel and Lan ship can work. After Ubel gets roughed up by Noi, he disables her mana detection and makes her go blind, leaving Lan to essentially be her eyes. This is another one of those special bonds that allows her to get closer to Megane, as she actually defends him and insults him in a way where one may lead one to think that she wants him to like her. After Ubel and Lan escapes, Ubel continues to display how insightful she can be as to figuring out people's motivations and feelings. It might be that special quality of empathy of hers, like how she assesses these shadow assassins would probably react as having an extreme sense of righteousness in being able to yeet people for what they deem true peace or what's better for the Empire. It's these contradicting factors about Ubel that make her such a mysterious and compelling character. In one instance, Noi compares Ubel to Captain Frase's sensibilities. On the other hand, Ubel has quite the keen fundamental understanding of people and can act in an empathetic manner, whereas her apathy for life can get in the way at certain moments. All of this between Ubel and Lan, and to up the crescendo further between these two, Serie tells Lan that he didn't actually need to come help with the mission, but sending Ubel to recruit him is actually what made him eventually join anyways. It was this and the fact that she thinks that they are not incompatible, insinuating a deeper connection between the two. It's even moments like these between Ubel and Fern that Ubel is indeed a girl that just wants to have some girl talk, It's moments like these that help normalize and make her a little bit more relatable. For the great mage feet goddess that's lived so many centuries, and compounding that with the fact that she had Matode and Ganao be partners to help Ganao feel a bit more human. I'd say she's really good at understanding people's psyche and matching up people to help balance each other out. It is this conversation between Serie, Lan, and Ubel, and in chapter 140 in general, that's like the ultimate cliffhanger right now, that brings in the culmination of where everyone's character development will go. At this point, it is clear that Serie points out his connection to the imperial capital as it pertains to his parents and grandmother, how that connects to Captain Frase, and how Ubel will be able to empathize and understand Lan on a deeper level. It also connects on an even deeper level with how Ubel and Lan asked for their free spell when they passed the first class mage exam. Lan's request was about a spell that can locate his family's remains, in which Ubel presumably wanted the same, but she went with the spell that can find her sister. This is really important because clearly family angst is something they can connect over, and we can clearly see that being able to clone herself would help Ubel on her search for her family too. This provides a motive for Ubel that we didn't really have before. Then there is Serie straight up saying that they aren't incompatible. It's not the glowing endorsement of a romantic relationship in the making, but it accurately describes how we all feel about their current relationship and bond. As Megane better learn to put the reins on your girl. This is honestly insinuating a lot here. This is like a crescendo moment for a mutual bond being built between Ubel and Lan. It's the first time we've seen Lan smile. Like, look at that face. Take one for the team, Megane. After recapping and taking into account both Ubel and Lan's character arc for this Serie assassination attempt, it becomes a lot clearer for what direction these characters are naturally gravitating towards, and is one I hinted at earlier in the video. I think all things are true. Ubel wants Lan's power, but she doesn't want it for some evil act. She wants it to find closure for her own family issues, just like Lan. This is going to be something that Lan and Ubel can naturally and thoughtfully bond with each other over. Also, I think it is true that Ubel likes Lan on a romantic level. At least she has interest in him. I think both characters' backstories will allow that romance to build, and they will eventually end up helping each other find closure for whatever family issue is there. Plot-wise, from what we saw between chapter 126 to 131, I think it will continue to progress their relationship. Since they are partners and their faces are known to the special magic forces after getting beat up and caught up, they will continue to have to be forced to rely on each other. And in doing so, they will end up flirting a bunch and do all the more fun romantic adult stuff, but cutesy things that Fern and Stark can't provide for the story. In terms of casualties, it would be a terrible move to kill off Ubel and Lan. The only people that make the most sense to die for impact is Serie, Gorilla, and possibly some shadow assassins, maybe even Shrit. The arc itself basically starts off with Ubel and Lan, and there is a clear emphasis in building this dynamic. So the only way one of them passes away, more likely our boy Megane, that would make sense to me is to go for Heartbreak and have Ubel unlock more powers through his death. But I'm rocking with my original inclination on this. Overall, I believe that Ubel and Lan will continue this crescendo of a potential romance, giving us flirtatious early moments of a relationship with more exploration of their backstory that will lead Ubel to empathize with Megane's Lan. We should get some more rounds against the special magic forces and hopefully some action against the Shadow Warriors too. That's pretty much where I think Megane and Ubel's arc is leading us to. Ubel has quickly shot up to the feet goddess level of one of my favorite characters in the story. There's too much depth to her character. That brings an entirely different element to the Frieren story that other characters can't provide. So hopefully this continues in this arc and future arcs as well. It all boils down to Ubel's motives as to why she wants Megane's land. And I think everything that I mentioned about the family backstory of both with both Ubel and Lan's spell requests, how all that will connect to a backstory and how it will connect to the current plot with Captain Frost. At this point, what I've seen in this arc is harder for me to believe that Ubel is just some power-hungry villain, but let me know what you guys think about where these two characters are going. Is Ubel using Megane, or does she wants to use Megane for his land? So yeah guys, check out my previous video where I go a little bit more in depth about the plot itself and a few things that I mentioned that I wanted to see happen in the plot. And if these videos start to do better and better, I will continue to make more and more content over it. So yeah guys, hit the like button if you want the Ubel and Megane ship, and subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Check out my blog at otakusen.com, and I appreciate you guys watching. I'll see you guys on the next video.